Thank you, Maggie, for your introduction earlier. And thank you, everybody, for the opportunity to speak with you about one of my favorite subjects, climate change, or rather, climate disruption. I'm not an expert or a scientist or even a professional activist. I'm a Napa resident who cares deeply and got involved with the local climate advocacy group, Napa Climate Now. So, a new flagship UN report on climate change came out on Monday, and it indicates that the harmful carbon emissions from 2010 to 2019 have never been higher in human history. This is proof that the world is on a fast track to disaster. And Antonio Guterres has warned, with scientists arguing that it's now or never to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees. He went on to say, we need to do everything, everywhere, all at once. So, to give you perspective, in the US in 2020, the average citizen emitted, or what is attributable to each citizen in the US, is about 14.6 tons of CO2 equivalents. And that's nearly twice what it is for the average global citizen at 6.3 tons, and 6 times the amount of somebody who lives in India at 2.4 tons. So that's why when this recent report came out, that the US is not being asked to be climate neutral by 2050, but that we need to be climate neutral by 2040. So as global citizens, right, everybody in the world, we need to get down to 2 to 2.5 tons of CO2 equivalents. So I know that's kind of hard to imagine what's the impact of a ton of carbon. And if you want to catch up with me afterwards, I have the list of ideas, but I'll give you the measurements as well. But I won't be doing this in the talk. So in the Bay Area, what's in the recent news is the Bay Area Air Quality Management District's change in rules in regards to being able to replace your gas water heater and heater. So they've kind of put a line, they've formed I think of it as putting a line in the sand, but what they've done is that they've put a working group together, and they've said that they're going to change the rules so that after 2027, you won't be able to replace your gas heater with another gas heater. So locally in Napa County, we have the Climate Action Committee, and that's made up of 2 city council people from each city and 2 supervisors from the county board of supervisors. And they've been meeting since 2019. So after 2 years in 2021, they came up with they came up with and formalized their joint powers agreement and their bylaws. So they made a decision to not be a group with authority, but one that is working in collaboration and is an advisory group. So the first thing they did was to get a grant from Bay Area Air Quality Management District to do a greenhouse gas inventory. So the 2 largest contributing factors or areas of greenhouse gas emissions are on-road transportation, which is attributable for 54, which is going to be real difficult to reduce because of our imbalance of jobs and housing. And then the second area is building energy, which is 24%. So they still are waiting on the report on carbon sequestration analysis and a memo on short-lived climate pollutants. So apparently not all pollutants are created equal. They're having some discussions in regards to becoming an enforcement agency, and that has to do with the change in the recent elections and the changes of the makeup of the Climate Action Committee. But those are all very preliminary, and that's the type of agency that Sonoma has. So the individual members are encouraged to go back to their municipalities and go for the low-hanging fruit. And that would be things like banning gas stations, which American Canyon has done. banning new gas stations. Sorry, I forgot the new. Thanks, Maggie. Key point. Yeah. And I was just reading Sonoma County has recently banned all new gas stations as well in the whole county. And ban on drive-through restaurants, which is being discussed in American Canyon and voted upon in the next couple of weeks. And then bans on single-use plastic, or they've created foodware ordinances, and bans on gas-powered leaf blowers, which they have in Calistoga, Yountville, St. Helena. Okay. Napa and American Canyon still haven't approved theirs. Although I think you'll see one in Napa County, the city of Napa, probably in 2024. So looking at the city, what they've done is in 2022, they signed a climate emergency resolution, as did all the cities in the county. And so they've all agreed to be climate neutral by 2030. They did include a climate change and sustainability element within their 240 general plan. And they've added 2 staff positions that include climate disruption work within the job description. So that's what the city's done. Napa Climate Now is a chapter of 350.org, which is a nationwide nonprofit that fights climate disruption through education and advocacy. So our work was related to the general plan and getting the climate element. Our efforts to deny permit approval for a drive-through, and advocating and writing the climate resolutions. But we couldn't have gotten the climate resolutions passed in the different city councils without the kids. I call them the kids. They're the Schools for Change group. There's a group of high school students fighting climate change. And they were just instrumental. They were at every city council meeting advocating for climate resolutions. I can't say enough about them. And right now they are our leaders. Not only were they our leaders in the climate resolution, but they're our leaders in the public awareness. So they're going into the high schools and taking a climate calculator to each classrooms and providing education, and organizing contests between classrooms to get people aware of what they need to do in regards to climate change. So they've been to American Canyon High, and they're at New Tech High now. New Tech High now, and they also have another contest related to art and climate change. So as individuals, what can we do? Again, I go back to the fact that we're averaging 14.6 tons of CO2 per year, and we need to get down to 2 or 2.5 tons in the US. So we have big steps that we need to make. The 4 actions that are the most substantial are eating a plant-based diet, avoiding air travel, living car-free, and having smaller families. So you can start with saving energy in your home by improving your home energy efficiency with insulation. And what's really impactful is the new heat pump technology. It's 2 to 3 times more efficient than the gas heaters and furnaces that you might have. And you can do the same for your water heater as well. You can get help with ideas, right, by going to or calling Bayrin, or going online to MCE's online assessment tool, and you can get ideas on what to do to make your home more efficient. Or you could have an energy audit done, and you can get tax credits for the energy audit. But if your income is low enough, you can actually have somebody come to your home, do the energy audit for you, and then they implement it. And that might even include replacing inefficient appliances that you have. We didn't qualify for income, but at one point you could get it. There was a misunderstanding by the outsourced party that does the audits. So we got to take advantage of it, and it was amazing. It was like 7 or 8 people converging on your house, looking at every possible crack that could be closed up and such, changed all the light fixtures, changed all the light bulbs. It was incredible. So you or we all can walk, bike, or take public transportation. And, when we've listened to the bike advocates, I just thought, that's just not so easy. But there was actually a study of the number of trips we take in Napa Valley. And actually, 63% of all the trips we make up and down the valley are less than 5 miles. And 31% are all under 2 miles. So I think this might explain why you see so many electric bikes. I mean, it's a great compromise. You can't afford the electric car, get an electric bike and do your small trips. That's still a huge contribution that you can be making. And sometimes I think, public transportation is so inconvenient. Well, I had a little experiment when a friend and I both had to be downtown San Francisco at high commute time, 9:00 meeting, right? And she needed to go separately. So she drove in her car. I drove to Vallejo, took the ferry, walked from the ferry up to 2nd Street or Beale Street. It took me 15 minutes longer. And I'm sure that it was a lot more comfortable being on the ferry than it was driving in commute traffic. The other is to eat more vegetables, right? Red meat is especially bad. It's 60% of the global agricultural land is dedicated to grazing. And then that's not even considering the grain production that's required to supplement that grazing. So those two things make it bad. But there's another issue, is that cows emit methane disproportionately. I think it's their belches and all those stomachs. But there's some solutions, but nothing's been fully implemented, right? So you could consider just edging towards veganism, or maybe having more meals that have more vegetables or less dairy products. And of course, considering your travel, right? What surprised me is 1/4 of all the greenhouse gas emissions worldwide is related to travel. As a globally, we waste 1 billion tons of food that accounts for 8 to 10% of the greenhouse gases. So yeah, if we can throw away less food. And that's what's especially bad is throwing it away and putting it in the garbage bin, because then it works against us by creating methane in the landfills, as compared to working for us and building wonderful dirt to plant vegetables. And we can, if you consider changing your home source of energy, so that you're using renewables like wind and solar. So there's more choices than just putting solar on your home. But if you do, there's some wonderful tax credits. But you can sign up for MCE's Deep Green program. And I don't know if you are aware, but every one of our municipalities has now signed up for MCE Deep Green. And the obvious choices of switching to EVs and hybrids. EVs got still some very lovely tax credits. I'm a financial planner, sorry. That emphasis on the tax credits, I like those. But we're going to, next year, I've looked at some of the information of the rebates that are available for low and moderate income. And I have information on what it means to be low and moderate income if you want to talk afterwards, but they're significant in regards to being able to get people into electric vehicles. And they'll probably be available next year. And I would ask that we work to make our money count. Like when we choose products, choose them from companies who use resources responsibly and are committed to cutting their gas emissions and waste. And that we make sure our savings are invested in environmentally sustainable businesses. So a really great place to start is going to NapaCountyClimateChallenge.org, and that's the climate calculator. And they've actually got, I think, competitions by city starting at that page. If your actions will be attributable to the city that you choose. And it'd be like taking a fine-tooth comb to your, climate lifestyle. So I'll stay after for questions, and thank you again for this opportunity.